This right here is the video that you have been wanting to see for days now. If you're a Vancouver Canucks fan who has been following the prospects and all the journeys and everything, this is kind of solace, isn't it? I mean, earlier in the year, we had ourselves some more damper conversations about prospects because the team didn't really have too many, but then, as the season went on, guess what? The Canucks make a trade for Aatu Räty. They sign a bunch of guys that are actually doing pretty alright. They sign some guys at the end of the NCAA season that actually play, and then you have yourselves the Canucks' first-round pick in 2022 actually improving as well. This is Jonathan Lekkerimaki. We're giving him his time in the spotlight because when it comes to his season, it's been a pretty up and down year, to say the least. Now, we've made a few videos about Lekkerimaki over the course of the past 12 months, talking about what he is as a prospect, talking about his strengths, his weaknesses, etc. If you want the entire rundown here, Lekkerimaki is 18 years old, born on July 24, 2004, 5'11", 172 as a right-handed right-wing sniper. He made his bread and butter last year in the Junior SHL League, scoring 35 points and 20 goals in 26 games played. He was so good that he was called up to the regular SHL, where he had 7 goals and 9 points in 26 games. You could see just based off of the profile here, but Lekkerimaki is a goal scorer. He was an absolutely primed sniper with a great shot, and he was able to unleash that at differing levels in Sweden's hockey leagues last year. He also played for Team Sweden at the U18s, getting 15 points in 6 games, which was absolutely phenomenal. And as a result, you had a bunch of people saying that Lekkerimaki could have been as high as a top 10 pick. ISS, Craig Button, McKeans, McKenzie, they all had him in the top 10, but the Vancouver Canucks snagged him up at number 15, which was seen as a very good value pickup at that spot. Now, heading into the season, a lot of people said, okay, well, Djurgården, the team he played for in the SHL, got demoted to the Allsvenskan, so they went from the top-tier league to the second-tier league, meaning that the competition Lekkerimaki is going to be playing against is going to be weaker. Therefore, you could probably expect a significant increase in point production. Well, you didn't get that out of Lekkerimaki this season. Last year, he had 9 points in 26 games. This season, he had 9 points in 29 games in an inferior league, and this gave a lot of Canucks fans reason to worry as to whether or not Lekkerimaki's development was on the right path. Now, I know he's only 18, it's 1 year after the draft, you can't really expect somebody to immediately skyrocket to the moon and back right away, and at the same time there were a bunch of injuries and things that he had to deal with, so it wasn't really the best draft plus 1 season he could have had on paper. There definitely was concern, and I'm going to go out there and say that that concern is worth thinking about. We can't go out there and discredit the entire year just because of a few things. But with all the concerns about Lekkerimaki asking whether or not he was the right pick, you see some other guys that were taken after Lekkerimaki doing a little bit better, improving a lot more in the short term. This is where things get a little bit fun, though, because the Allsvenskan Playoffs had started up the other week, and Jonathan Lekkerimaki has shown off extraordinarily well in the tournament so far. He had 9 points in 29 games in the regular season, but in the playoffs, he's got 15 games played and 15 total points. He went from being a point every 3 games type of guy to a straight-up point per game guy. He has almost twice the amount of goals he had in the regular season in half as many games. And in order to take a deeper look as to what Lekkerimaki has done to just explode offensively in the best way possible, we're going over onto Daniel G. Scouting's article on dailyhive.com. Daniel G. does some great work. I've always mentioned his content. He's a great content creator here on the Vancouver hockey scene. Take a look at the tweet that he made. After a nightmare season plagued by injuries and sickness, the Canucks forward Lekkerimaki has returned with a vengeance in the Hockey Allsvenskan Playoffs. The article will be linked in the description if you want to get a bigger, more extended look as to what Daniel writes about. If you fast forward to the present day, things could not be more different for Lekkerimaki than it was during the regular season. He recovered from his foot injury and joined Djurgården in their playoff bid to be promoted back to the SHL. With time off to heal, train, and rebuild confidence, this version of Lekkerimaki was much more akin to what evaluators saw in his draft season, a player who could make an impact every time he touched the puck. This version of Lekkerimaki is dynamic, he's engaged and dangerous, all qualities that had the Canucks so bullish on him when they selected him last July. There are a bunch of clips talking about his dynamism in transition. There's a write-up about his engagement in the play and what he's actually doing to force his hand at making plays, how he's improved his hockey sense too, how he's shown off much more as an off-puck shooting threat. I'll leave you to your vices if you want to go ahead and dive deep into what it is that Daniel writes about these individual traits, but when it comes to what's next, this is what it says here in the piece. Lekkerimiki's playoff resurgence represents a positive story at the end of the day, while also providing a lesson that coming to swift conclusions about 18-year-old prospects is probably not the best bet. Significant hurdles cannot simply be understated or swept under the rug when evaluating such young players. Nevertheless, it will be on the young Swede to continue this level of play next season, wherever that may be. With Djurgårdens going back to the Allsvenskan next season, Lekkerimiki's future remains unclear right now. The Athletic's Scott Wheeler reported that some of the club's prospects have out clauses in their contracts if their teams failed to make it into the SHL, the current reality for Lekkerimaki. Players of his archetype need more time to develop, so do not be surprised if we're following him from across the pond for another season. You also had yourselves this tweet made by Chris Faber. Chris is a great friend of mine as well, does some very good work on Canucks Army. He tweeted this out the other day as well, kind of going over what some potential speculation entails. Lots of rumblings that Lekkerimaki will be signing his ELC with the Canucks and then be loaned to Leksands IF in the SHL for 23-24. I'm also hearing that Farjestad BK is a potential landing spot. They're targeting the young draft picks from Djurgården. And that's a great scoop, because all in all, if it means that Lekkerimaki is going to be back in the SHL, hopefully proving himself with the same level of dynamism, offensive engagement, and creativity as he had this season in the playoffs in the Allsvenskan, then I think that's the very appropriate next step that we could see out of this guy. I've said it before and I'll say it again, if Lekkerimaki pans out to what his ceiling could be, we could very well be looking at a 30-goal scorer consistently. Right-handed guy, he fills in that role that is kind of freed up if you get rid of Conor Garland. If you want to get rid of Besser too, then I guess that's also an option. But Lekkerimaki could be that 30-goal sniper that maybe gets a few 25 to 30 assist seasons once in a while. His playmaking has actually really improved over the past 12 months too, so who knows if he's maybe able to get, let's say, a 65 to 70 point season with 30 goals down the line. If Lekkerimaki is that, somewhere in the Canucks top 6, then I think that's a pretty good pickup for a 15th overall pick. You can't really go wrong with getting top 6 forwards at that range at the draft. Especially when you consider the Swedish connection. You've got Elias Pettersson, you've got Nils Höglander, you've got Elias Pettersson, and I said that twice on purpose because there are 2 in the system. And then you have yourselves everybody else. Philip Johansson is doing really well in the AHL. There are a lot of Swedes in the Canucks system that I think we should all be looking forward to. And Jonathan Lekkerimaki is giving us a lot to cheer about when it comes to what's next. So, if you're a fan of the Vancouver Canucks and their prospects, what are your thoughts about Lekkerimaki this playoff run? What were your thoughts back when he was playing in the SHL last year? If you had followed the Allsvenskan season this year and you were kind of concerned about what he was doing, how he was producing, then let me know in the comments all your opinions about that as well. If you had been watching any of the tape like I had been, just kind of checking in, seeing what he's been doing, seeing some of the goals, seeing some of the plays, and sort of acknowledging that there was a level that you didn't really see this year that was present last year. How does it change now, knowing that there were a bunch of injuries and things that he had to deal with that pretty much explain everything? Now that he's healthy and now that he's here, he's doing some great things and he's looking a lot better. So what are your thoughts overall on the improvements from this season, the improvements from last season, how Lekkerimaki is going to project into next year's worth of play and beyond? I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.